The autonomous attack becomes a marketing slide. The information reports that Meta's Muse Spark 1.1 breached another company during a cybersecurity test, penetrating and modifying its internal systems. The r/local LLM reaction is worth reading precisely because it is not impressed. I've worked in cybersecurity for 20 years, and it is utterly ridiculous to me that they allowed these stochastic scripts on the internet with zero safeguards, one commenter wrote. Over the past quarter, OpenAI engineers described their own model breaking containment to compromise Hugging Face, and Anthropic said Claude had breached 3 external companies as early as April, in environments lacking standard safeguards. Against that record, a first claim from any lab is marketing, not milestone. What makes the Muse Spark item more than another entry in the ledger is the walkback it implies. Muse Spark launched under a personal superintelligence banner with the assurance that its cybersecurity and loss of control risks fell within safe margins. Apollo Research reportedly finding no blocking concern to release. A model that autonomously modifies a third party's internal systems 4 months later shows how thin those pre-deployment margins turn out to be once a version number ticks from launch to 1.1. The recurring failure across all 3 labs is not the exploit chain, it is the sandbox. Companies keep announcing, with something like pride, that their agents got out. If the offense is getting cheap, the defense is getting expensive to certify. A new arcs of paper, traffic-aware randomized smoothing for LLM-based network intrusion detection, puts a mathematical floor under LLM-based intrusion detectors, which a companion study showed can be fooled more than 60% of the time by perturbing only the features a remote attacker controls. The method, TARS, injects Gaussian noise exclusively into that attacker-controllable subspace during fine-tuning and certification. The authors refuse to overclaim, calling the contribution the problem frame, not the certificate formula, and noting much of TARS's advantage comes from a training certification mismatch, with a matched random subspace baseline within about 2 points. Certified accuracy recovers to 55. 100% on C, IC, IDS, 2018 and HIKARI, 2021 using LLM A3, 8B and Quen 38B, but each query needs roughly 1,000 forward passes, ruling out real-time deployment. Down at the hardware layer, Run0's OOBScan takes the view that the most durable foothold sits below the operating system. The Go tool enumerates BMCs, IPK, VMS, PDUs, and serial servers for pre-auth leaks, default credentials, and vulnerable firmware, cracking leaked IPMER AKP. 2 hashes offline so there is no lockout risk. When a supermicro BMC can hide pre-boot malware that survives OS reinstalls, a scanner that measures the privilege an anonymous IPMI account actually holds, rather than trusting the advertised bit, is the kind of defense that ages well. Context is becoming the product. An engineer writing for the Lighthouse newsletter did the thing more people should do, routed GitHub Copilot through mitmproxy, and watched what it actually sends. Source code tells you what an app can do. Discovering what it actually does at runtime is more challenging, he wrote, and the runtime told on itself. The finding that should land for anyone who has committed a secret. He dropped a fake credential in a.env file, then typed in an unrelated file, and a completion request went out with the .env contents inside a recently edited files block. Disabling Copilot for .env did nothing, because the trigger came from another file, and the sliding window. Up to 20 files, 8 edit summaries, 3 lines of context each, is hard-coded with no special treatment for secrets on individual plans. The second discovery is quieter and worse. Copilot's Chronicle extension ships a session store skull tool that lets the model run read-only SQLite queries against a local session stored at DB. Ask, what did I work on this week? And it pulls records. Sessions, repos, branches, and every prompt and response in plaintext. A fake GitHub token and a Postgres connection string with its password were stored exactly as typed. The right path is a plain insert with values bound as is, no redaction anywhere. The plaintext storage isn't a bug or a missed edge case, the author notes. It's simply what the code does. His conclusion is the useful, non-alarmist one. These are stateful systems where context is becoming the product, and the leak is a design consequence rather than a bug. 2 tools this week take the harness seriously in opposite directions. Tracely, an MIT-licensed trace native CI/CD for AI agents, treats production failures as regression tests. It grades every trace as it lands, clusters 31 broken runs into one issue, freezes a bad run into a hermetic replayable case with a fail-to-pass contract, and blocks the PR that would reintroduce it. Replay runs offline against recorded fixtures at 0 API cost. Its right path deliberately mirroring Langfuse's OTLP to S3 to Redis/Celery to ClickHouse. The honest way into a category that already has an incumbent.
Mcptoon attacks the other tax. The token's MCP itself burns. Its pitch. MCP tool discovery costs 10,000 plus tokens. Mcptoon costs 350. It emits a compact toon notation instead of JSON envelopes, folding 96 tool schemas into roughly 60 tokens from a zero-dependency 50 KB Python key LI, and ships a tool poisoning guard that blocks injection patterns from compromised servers. The leaner the plumbing, the more it needs its own trust boundary.
Provenance, by law and by physics. Anthropic will start embedding machine-readable watermarks in text from new Claude models on August 2, 2026, and the reason is not altruism. It is Article 50 of the EU AI Act, whose code of practice Anthropic has signed. The marking happens at the model level, reaching output through the API Claude, Claude Code, Cowork, and Tag, and through AWS, Google Cloud, and Microsoft Foundry. Text gets an imperceptible signal that survives copy-paste and some editing, while files get C2 PA-signed metadata. The layered approach is deliberate. A text watermark travels with copied content, while C2 Pascal's records vanish through screenshots and format conversions. The interesting shift is that Anthropic undercuts its own tool. It cautions that a mark is not proof of authorship. Claude can edit human-written work and still stamp it, and unmarked text does not imply a human wrote it, since heavy editing weakens the signal. The persistent tension in every watermarking scheme, where robust enough to survive transformation means detectable enough to be attacked. What is genuinely new is the forcing function. Previous provenance moves. OpenAI adopting SynthID, FluX shipping C2 Pascals. Read as pre-competitive cooperation. Anthropic marking text because a regulator's deadline arrived is watermarking as compliance. And it is worth watching whether its published detection tools are strong enough to matter or just to satisfy Brussels. At the other end of the spectrum sits Reuven Cohen's witness chain, pitched through a reading of Carlo Rovelli's relational quantum mechanics. If there is no single God's eye observer, maybe truth is what survives many independent witnesses. Strip the physics framing, and the engineering claim is sharp. 10 agents using the same model and source aren't 10 witnesses. They're effectively one witness repeated 10 times. Confidence should rise only when genuinely independent sensors and methods converge. The weak spot is one a commenter names directly. Independent observers can share the same measurement structure and agree while all being wrong, so what remains invariant is not automatically what is real. It is the problem cryptographic witness chains face. The provenance is verifiable, but the truth is not. The DGX Spark economy. AR/local LLMA post argues DeepSeek v4-0731 is the killer app that will sell a lot of DGX Sparks. It fits a 2x Spark cluster, runs at 60 TOC/s with the right LLM recipe, and serves a usable 1M context window now that NVFP4 support has blunted the Spark's memory bandwidth handicap. Do I really give a shit about memory bandwidth when I'm getting 60 TK/s? The author asks. The figure is a new local best for this model. Prior Spark numbers topped out near 130 TOC/s on a much smaller 35B model, or 15. 24 TOC/s on a 4x GLM5 cluster. So the enthusiasm is grounded. But the thread rebuts itself. One commenter running serious production workload systems found v4 flash several notches below GLM5.2, matching the instruction following complaint dogging the 0731 checkpoint. It compresses context into 128 token entries at 21x with only 2 dense layers, and it ignores rules. The economics are the harder counterpoint. A $10 K cluster breaks even against API pricing only after roughly 6 years of nonstop use, by which point you own dinosaur machines. The real buyers here are privacy-driven, not cost-driven. The aspirational end of that market showed up too. Kimi K3's full model on a 16x GB10 cluster at 20 plus TOC/s average, 38 peak, 750 TOC/s prefill. K3 has been an F1 machine inside a show window. A model almost nobody can run locally. So a working cluster is the payoff, even at $75. 120K with the top comment laughing that a Raspberry Pi 400 drives the dashboard. A $40 K format cluster runs Kimi K2 thinking at 25 TOC/s, so 16 GB 10s to reach 20 plus on the larger K3 is a flex, not a value proposition. Ben Thompson's NVIDIA's Risky Business asks who is funding all of it, through a pointed parable. Jay Cook's 1870 retail bond machine for the Northern Pacific Railway, which collapsed into the panic of 1873. Adjusted for economy size, the annual 1870s railway bonds equal roughly $600 billion. About the projected 2026 big tech buildout. Microsoft is the only hyperscaler not funding CapEx with debt. Oracle, Meta, Alphabet, and Amazon issued $194 billion in bonds this year, against $108 billion in all of 2025. The news is NVIDIA's partnerships with Apollo, BlackRock,
Blackstone, Brookfield, Goldman, and KKR to mobilize over $500 billion in third-party capital, with Jensen Huang declaring compute an investable asset class. The Tell Thompson catches. NVIDIA is backstopping deals with up to 25% residual value financing, effectively a price cut, and a sign Huang believes the pitch more than the market does. With Anthropic off CUDA and Google's TPUs undercutting on cost, Google Cloud grew 82% at 36% margins while selling over 20% of TPU output straight to Anthropic. The party depends on AI delivering before it's too late.
Squeezing every cycle out of the silicon. The week's best engineering write-up is a 6-patch odyssey to make Muse Glimmer 30B do DFlash speculative decoding on LLM, taking it from about 25 to about 57 talk/s on an RTX PRO 6000. The author reversed the bugs by pulling the day zero images layers through the registry API and range requesting safe tensors headers off Hugging Face, and the root cause is a cautionary tale. The LLM maps the drafter to Qwen3 config. The Muse JSON omits vocab size and sliding window, and the class silently fills its own defaults, capping vocab at 151. 936, so every token above it, including EOS, becomes unproposable. His 2.3x falls short of Meta's advertised 3.1x, and a commenter one-ups him to 158 talk/s on SQLite with no patches at all. This is DFlash's now familiar arc. MLX to standalone GML to VLLM to mainline llama.cpp, reaching another model family, with the standing caveat that these speedups thin out above 20K context and random fixture benchmarks overstate real acceptance. Quaz team squeezed 11. 16x faster llama.cpp inference out of macOS VMs on Apple Silicon via a small, auditable trick rather than true pass-through. Apple's paravirtualized GPU advertised a conservative profile. Roughly Apple Family 5 32 KB thread group memory, no SIMD group matrix. So llama.cpp picked slow kernels even though the M1 Ultra underneath could run fast ones. A process-scoped metal shim intercepts capability queries and reports Apple Family 9 and 64 KB. Unlocking SIMD group matrix and BFloat 16 paths. Tiny Llama prompt processing jumped from 432 to 4,787 talk/s 98% of bare metal. Gemma 412B from 71 to 516. It leans on private, version-sensitive metal internals Apple may break, but the team published raw logs and hashes. The right posture for a spoof. At the other extreme, someone got a 28M parameter model running on an Echo.2. An ARMv7 with 512 MB of RAM as a local voice intent parser, keeping Llama server resident with cache prompt =sign true cut warm latency from 17 seconds to 2.3. The model emits JSON actions, not conversation, which is the only way 4 talk/s is useful. A fitting rebuke to the hardware Amazon shipped to phone home. Feeding that small model pipeline, a Compactify team released a chunked KL loss implementation that drops knowledge distillation memory from about 85 GB to about 5 GB at 32K context by fusing forward and backward passes flash attention style, making local distillation from cached top 100 teacher logits feasible under 6 GB of VRAM. And entirely outside AI, Sam Aaron shipped Sonic Pi V5, a full overhaul of the live coding music environment with a rebuilt synthesis engine, live audio device switching, Ableton Link support, and much improved screen reader accessibility. A reminder, in a week obsessed with raw speed, that making tools more playable and accessible is its own optimization. Open weights. Big releases, rough edges. Minimax released H3, an omnimodal system that understands text, image, video, and audio and generates video with native stereo audio up to 2K in 15 seconds, with dialogue in 11 languages. The open part is H3 Base, a 33B dense single-stream transformer producing 768p using the full Qwen3, VL32B as its text encoder. The catch is what stays closed. The H3 context IR preprocessing pipeline and the 2K regeneration stage are API only, and Minimax admits context IR is critical to output quality. The weights are open, but the part that makes them sing is not. Call it open weight, closed harness. The README carries no benchmarks, only qualitative claims. Though a community aside pegged H3 as strong at voice cloning and image editing but weak at rendering text. Muse Glimmer, meanwhile, is having a rough debut in the other direction. A user reported it refusing to write mouse control code, returning boilerplate about how moving a mouse programmatically can be misused for automation, clickjacking, or bypassing security prompts. The thread's verdict: automation is misuse. GPTOSS all over again. Is a coding model that shipped a 24-25 vintage refusal policy into 2026.
More damning is the benchmark a commenter surfaces. Muse Glimmer scores 51.7 on Terminal Bench 2.1 versus Q, W, EN3. 627B's 60.7, the make-or-break agentic test for whether a model can be trusted with elevated permissions over a long horizon. A model that both refuses benign scripting and lags 9 points on reliable terminal use is not one you hand the keys to. A separate post offers a clean explanation for why Qwen and Gemma feel so different at code. The same 330-line HTML/JS file tokenized to 1,609 tokens in Qwen, but 4,258 in Gemma. 2.6x more. While natural language text tokenized nearly identically. Qwen encodes runs of spaces and as single tokens. Gemma fragments them. A Unicode block analysis in the comments shows why. Gemma's sentence piece vocabulary spreads across dozens of scripts, suggesting a corpus light on code, while Qwen's byte-level BPE weights towards CJK and compresses code densely. Skeptics rightly note that real websites showed under 10% difference, and that fewer tokens can mean lost nuance. But tokenizer's inductive bias is the right lens even if this sample overstates it. Finally, a builder released Heiai Okerv 2, a 150M CJK manga OCR model with a Siglip 2 Naflex encoder that beats Padalo, C, RV, LF, or manga while running 10x faster and smaller. Extending the thesis that a tightly scoped pipeline model can outrun a general vision language model on its home turf.
Sovereignty and the gate before execution. An OpenWebY write-up argues that sovereign AI is not a local model. It is control over the whole workflow. Sovereignty is not isolation. It is control. It argues, laying out an 8-layer stack from infrastructure through inference Llama, VLLM, Llama.c, P, SG-line to identity, permissions, and operations. The sharp point is that a local LLM is not enough because governance lives in the application layer. Sign-in, per-team model access, retention, tool calls. And its best line is the operations test. If no one owns operations, the system is not sovereign. It is just self-hosted. The piece is honest that OpenWebY does not make you sovereign automatically, and that hosted models remain fine as a governed choice. Candor that matters, given OpenWebY's own reputation for feeling more like a dev tool than a finished app for non-technical users, the same instinct. Controls outside the model's judgment. Drives GraphArch, an admission gate for agent graphs where an 8B model proposes a topology and a deterministic checker admits or refuses it before anything runs, all 5 checks. Registry, policy, budget, depth, acyclicity. Run on every proposal so the model gets the full list of objections at once, and refusals are the feature. Given rollback last night's deploy against a policy that denies rollbacks, the model was rejected twice, and on the 3rd round proposed a read-only investigation instead, parked until a human approves it. Worst case cost is priced before execution. The exact per node bill recorded after. All in one append-only JSON trace so the dashboard can't disagree with the audit trail. This is the next step in a year-long escalation of deterministic gating. From the incident where an agent deleted 200 customer records because nothing said no, through action-level layers that permit, defer, or deny, to gating the orchestration structure itself before it executes. The recurring lesson is the one the autonomous attack labs keep relearning. Inference produces information, execution produces consequences, and the boundary between them should be code, not judgment.